It can only be attributable to human error.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in
Slug.
things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Mulder.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Kaiju,
I'm Eli Watson.
And I'm Stephen Myers.
and you're listening to
Cryptid.
Campfire.
Tall
Ooh.
Tale.
Tall Tales.
Woohoo! Yeah,
Another one.
Oh,
another
yeah,
one.
for the Patreon members only. We love you guys.
Heck yeah.
Ooh.
So we got a special episode by
Mhm.
popular demand.
Woohoo.
Spring-heeled Jack. Today.
Hello, Governor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Hello, Governor.
Like that regular show episode. Where it's the
That's
car.
a good one.
And he's like, "Hello, governor."
Scary.
Just, it's so funny because it's the only thing he says every time.
But it's scary though.
Yeah, we're talking about regular show today. That show's pretty good too.
It is a pretty good show.
It has one of my favorite jokes to where there's an episode where they beat an old arcade game, and it's like
Is that the one where they set up the chairs?
I think so.
And they beat the game and the monster comes out?
No,
Or is that
like
a different one?
it's the one where they beat this arcade game, and then this big giant head shows up because they beat the initials GBH, I think.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, "Oh my god, it stands for giant big head." And it goes, and then the head goes, "No, it stands for Garrett Brad Harris."
But where are we
Today
going
we're
today?
Talking about Spring-heeled Jack, and we're going across the pond to good old England.
Yes, sir. But not just any old England.
London.
Victorian. What? Yes, London. You're correct. London. But
London.
Victorian London.
Yeah, the cool steampunk version.
Yes, sir.
Everyone was wearing goggles, top hats, vests with little gears and cogs on it instead of buttons.
Gary Oldman's wandering around somewhere and all that.
He's looking for Winona Ryder.
And the Will Smith movie Wild Wild West is happening at the same time, right?
Ooh, and there's the big giant spider is walking across the Great Plains of the New Americas.
But yes, so Spring-heeled Jack was the terror of Victorian era England. And what does this Jack fellow look like?
It says he's got a little goatee, pointed
Oh.
ears and horns. He can breathe like blue flames.
I heard instead of breathing, he vomits blue
Yeah.
flames.
Or he spurts, if you will.
Blue and
Oh
white
my.
flames. There we go.
A little too much of those fancy beans that England keeps eating. I heard that he has the shape of a ghost, imp, or devil, like a large white bull almost.
Huh.
Huh.
Yeah.
I got that he looked very gentlemanly. I guess more along the lines of what Stefan was saying.
Like a guy in a fancy suit with a little
Yeah,
cape.
got like those. It literally looks like how Gary Oldman looks when he's rebirthed on the way over. That's like the picture on Wikipedia. That's kind of what he looks like, except with wings.
This is we're talking about Dracula, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about Fifth Element.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Where he's
Wait,
got
I was
the
talking about
little
True
plastic
Romance.
thing with the hair.
Which Gary Oldman?
There's too many to choose.
But yeah, so
Yeah, what does boy do?
well, before we really get into Spring-heeled Jack, I would like to bring up a predecessor to Spring-heeled Jack. And so in the early 19th century in London, there was reports of ghosts walking around the streets. And this is kind of like what Alex was saying. They basically look like regular people for the most part, except they were white.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really white. And, they would sometimes they would attack people, like grab people on the streets. And
Whoa.
kind of like, yeah, it's like kind of crazy stuff. So the most famous one, and I'm going to paraphrase this in such a short way, and I feel like this is something that we need to do a tall tale on later, but
Okay.
it's called the Hammersmith Ghost, because there's so much drama that happens as a result of this guy. But basically, he showed up in 1803 and 1804, and people were being grabbed, like I mentioned before, by the ghost, and one person was actually inadvertently killed because of the Hammersmith Ghost. They got shot in the face.
Oh,
Whoa.
Yeah, and I'm not
That's
gonna.
intense.
Yeah, dude, it's like there was like some misidentification going on. It's all real shady, but it's like
Mhm.
it's an interesting read, and I feel like we can cover it for a tall tale.
Okay.
Ooh. So
But yeah,
duly
but
noted.
this all took place like 30 years before Spring Heel Jack ever showed up. Which was, did anyone get that?
Was it 1838?
Yes.
Dun dun dun. 1838. Bizarre attacks all over London are being reported. People being grabbed, slashed, a strange figure bounding over high walls, even buildings, they say.
Yes.
I just want to double check that's what I got,
Yeah.
because that's where I'm going with.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
right.
homie's a menace.
Yeah, I have two sightings that occurred, I think, like back to back.
And this is, I think, was that in
Um,
like the start of the year, right?
yeah, this is like early January. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like you said, there was some sightings. He's leaping from building to building, from street to building, kind of like crazy acrobatic stunts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's a woman named Mary Stevens who was walking to a place known as Lavender Hill, where she worked as a servant. And that's a reoccurring theme here as well, is that he seems to attack servant girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had just finished visiting her parents and was walking to work. And let's see, it says on her way through Clapham Common, a strange figure leapt at her from a dark alley. And he gripped her in his arms and started kissing her on her face
Oh
and ripping
my.
her clothes and touching her with his claws. And she described the claws as cold and clammy as those of a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
And she screamed, and the figure ran away. But the screams brought in people, and they did a little search around the area to see if they could find this spring-heeled Jack, but he was nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, near Mary Stevens' home, the spring-heeled Jack figure appeared again, this time hopping in front of a passing carriage, causing the driver to,
Oh,
kind
lose
of
control,
swerve.
right? And he
He lost
crashed.
control, and he crashed, and he hurt himself, like, pretty badly.
Yeah, very bad.
Because like
Yeah,
you
and
figure it's one of those old timey, I figure, horse-drawn carriage.
mm-hmm.
So you figure it's one of those high ones. He's probably sitting on top. Horse and the horses around.
Yeah.
And this strange figure jumps out. He probably looks like a fancy gentleman with a big old mustache and a cape. He's got a weird suit on with maybe some skeleton bones on it. He goes, "Ahoy, governor! Look out! I'm bouncing around here."
Yahoo!
And the guy goes, "Ahoy, governor!" And then he goes off the road. And he probably gets propelled. And the carriage probably catches on fire because it's got those oil lamps on the outside. Because old timey people don't know nothing about common sense. It's probably pretty intense.
I know the dude that got in a crash. He's like, "Oh, I got a slip disc. Please help." And little Jack is all like, "Ha ha!" and flips him the bird and
Oh.
springs away.
Yep, jumping over a 9-foot-high wall, according to some witnesses.
Oh man, that's crazy.
But yeah, basically exactly what Stefan said, though. He cackled in a high-pitched voice.
Mummy's nasty.
Wipeout.
I was reading into it, and I'm like, this guy's like, okay, he's a little scary. Maybe if I saw him, I'd be a little scared. But then he like started like molesting girls, and that's when it gets into the nasty zone.
Oh yeah.
Gentlemen, take note. Do not be a spring-heeled jack. You want to get to
No
know a
good.
lady, ask her out for coffee, maybe. Ask her common interests. You know,
Yeah.
get to know her. Did you get Polly Adams?
Didn't get too many details on that.
Mm-hmm. I was
Did you-
gonna say,
Sure, go ahead and say it.
and so I think this happened. She might have been maybe the first report because it says she happened in January.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first few was she was a barmaid named Polly Adams,
Mm.
and apparently she was closing up the bar that night, and I think it was in Blackheath, which is in southern London, and she was walking home, and all it says is she was claimed to be attacked by Spring Hill Jack, but there's not too many details.
Yeah, I got around the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so Spring Heel Jack was actually officially recognized, like you said, in 1938 on January 9th, when the Lord Mayor of London,
Oh
uh,
dang, yeah, this is
who was
crazy.
Sir John Cowan, and at a public session in the Mansion House, because it's both a mansion and a house,
Mm-hmm.
uh, revealed an anonymous complaint that he had received a few days earlier that he had withheld, hoping to get more information on it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read this for y'all. So it reads as this. It appears that some individuals of, as the writer believes, the highest ranks of life have laid a wager with mischievous and foolhardy companion that he durst not take upon himself the task of visiting many of the villages near London in 3 different disguises, a ghost, a bear, and a devil, and moreover, that he will not enter a gentleman's gardens for the purpose of alarming the inmates of the house. The wager has, however, been accepted, and the unmanly villain has succeeded in depriving 7 ladies of their senses, 2 of whom are not likely to recover, but to become burdens to their families.
Whoa.
Let's see. It continues. At one house, the man rang the bell, and on the servant coming to open the door, this worse than brute stood in no less dreadful figure than a spectre clad most perfectly. The consequence was that the poor girl immediately swooned, and has never from that moment been in her senses. The affair has now been going on for some time, and strange to say, the papers are still silent on the subject. The writer has reason to believe that they have the whole history at their finger ends, but, through interested motives, are induced to remain silent. Signed, a resident of Peckham.
Oh boy.
That raises so many questions, you know?
Seriously.
I mean, it's kind of weird to hear them called finger ends for sure.
Yeah.
It's like goose pimples.
Oh, gross.
Ew.
I got goose pimples on my finger ends,
Ugh. Ugh.
and someone grabbed my weenus. It's a real part of the body. Look it up. But yeah, so they're saying it's like a wager
Yes,
that
and we'll
these
get to
what
that.
like rich guys are going around jumping over 9-foot walls and using razor sharp claws to reap
Supposedly,
unholy terror.
yes. I'm gonna share a couple more cases, and then I'm gonna get into exploring a little bit more about this theory
Mm-hmm.
about a wager. But like I said, that was publicly read on January 9th. 2 days later, the Lord Mayor receives like a lot of letters of reports of, similar things happening all over London.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lord Mayor thought there were some exaggerations to some of these reports. I'm assuming the parts where he like jumps over 9-foot tall walls and things like that.
And he vomits blue fire and has these giant white glowing orbs for eyes.
Well, that hasn't happened quite yet.
Oh, he hasn't upgraded yet.
Yes. Well, because like some of the letters he received uh described Spring-Heeled Jack as performing the feats of the devil on Earth.
Whoa, playing
Uh,
Yeah,
fiddle,
can you
maybe?
imagine witnessing somebody jump like 10 feet in the air?
It would be insane.
I know, and this is way before Michael Jordan was even born.
Yeah.
So people don't even know how good a human can jump yet.
They have no idea what's coming.
They're like, oh man, I wish we would have, instead of being in the 1830s, been in the 1930s, so we could be in the 1990s to watch the good stuff happen.
What? But yeah, but someone also close to the Lord Mayor had told him of someone scaring a servant girl while wearing a bearskin.
Mm-hmm.
So he assumed that it was young aristocrats doing pantomime and freaking girls out and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is still nothing to do. You should not do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, for sure, yeah.
ain't you got some cool steampunk stuff to do?
Well, that's why he sent the cops after him. He sent the
Mm-hmm.
police out there, and reportedly, the Duke of Wellington, who is 70 years old at the time,
Yeah.
uh, loaded up, strapped up, went out on horseback looking for these fools.
Yeah. Could you imagine? So picture this, Stefan. Picture Sir Ian McKellen.
Mm-hmm.
Now picture him as the Duke of Wellington. He's kind of strapped to the nines. He's got some old timey guns on him. He's on a horse. He's going into the woods to hunt down Spring-Heeled Jack, but he's got his buddies with him. Picture Patrick Stewart playing Prince Albert in the can, and on their other side, John Hurt as cirrhosis of liver. And today they are Spring-Heeled Jack hunters.
What a
What did you say?
Spring-Heeled Jack hunters.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And so now I'm going to talk about two of the most famous cases.
Mm-hmm.
So February 19th, 1838, Jane Alsop answered the door of her father's house to someone claiming to be a police officer. He told her to grab a light because they had caught Spring-Heeled Jack. So she brings him a candle, and as she's coming closer to him, she noticed he was wearing this large cloak. And she hands him the candle, and he takes off his cloak real quick, revealing like tight-fitting clothing that she described as, what did she say? White oilskin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a tight-fitting white costume, like oilskin. I assume kind of like maybe like a diving.
Something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or like
And
a wetsuit almost.
right.
And he was wearing some kind of helmet, like a black helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, is this the story where he apparently vomited blue and white flames?
Yeah, he spewed blue and white flames from his mouth.
Yeah.
And his eyes burned like red balls of fire.
Ooh.
And so he grabbed her and began tearing her clothes with his claws.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she was sure that they were made of some metallic material.
Mm-hmm.
Got some Edward Scissorhands going on.
Right. So she screamed and ran back towards her house, and that's when he grabbed her again on the steps.
Mm-hmm. And he started strangling her, right?
Right, with yeah, he like tried to kill her, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. With his gross like metal hands. And then
Yeah.
her family burst out the door, right? They heard the screaming and the yelling.
Yeah, it was her sister actually who rescued her. And as soon as like her sister showed up, the homie, he's not the homie,
No,
the fiend, the villain ran away.
The cat.
He's a king mixer.
So yeah, so a man named Thomas Milbank reportedly on the same night that Jane Alsop was attacked, he claimed that he was Spring-Heeled Jack and was actually taken to court. And I think they said that, I don't know, something about him having the trench coat and the candle that she had given him. He had like all of that stuff, but he didn't get convicted because she was insistent that this Spring-Heeled Jack figure breathed fire. And that's something that Milbank said that he couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting.
They brought out, a cake with a bunch of candles, and they're like, "Prove it! Prove you're Spring-Heeled Jack! Light the flame,
Right. Could you imagine?
or we'll light you on fire."
Oh my. Like the typical witch thing, if you tie
Yeah,
someone
to where
to the rock and throw them at the bottom of the lake. Well, if they drown, they weren't a witch, but if they, get out and
if
start swimming to shore, we got to kill them because
yeah,
they're a
if
witch.
they get loose and start flying out of the water and shooting laser beams out their eyes, then they're a witch.
Yeah, what a terrible way to go out. So that brings us to our next case, though, the Scales case.
Mm-hmm.
So this occurred like less than 10 days later on February 28th, 1938. 18-year-old, oh, is it Scales or Sales?
I got Lucy Scales.
All right, Scales. I have it written both ways in my notes. So 18-year-old Lucy Sales and her sister were returning home after visiting their brother. And they had just left their brother's place and were passing along the Green Dragon Alley when a person wearing a large cloak spurted a quantity of blue flame into her face.
Oh dang!
And yeah,
That's a
and she
big
lost
no-no.
her. Yeah, don't do that. And she lost her sight and like fell to the ground and started convulsing violently for like several hours after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's mostly from her sister that we get the description from, obviously because Lucy had been blinded, that she said it was just a tall, thin, gentlemanly-looking dude. And he didn't say anything. He didn't grab her or anything. He just walked away after he did that.
The
And,
perfect disguise.
yeah, pretty weird.
The perfect crime. You just shoot fire into someone's face from your mouth and walk away.
They're gonna be like, that guy's got nice clothes. He can't do anything wrong.
He'd have sins marks everywhere. Come on now.
Like I said, they had just left their brother's place, and he had heard his sister screaming, so he went out to see what was happening. And that's when he saw his sister on the ground. And that's...
Did you say that this happened in Limehouse?
I did not, but I think that is where it occurred.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say because all I could find about Lucy Scales was like a little footnote to where it's one of the bigger sightings, but it just simply said Lucy Scales, and then parentheses Butcher's daughter, which doesn't play into the story in any way.
Yeah, right.
You know who Jack reminds me of? Alex from Clockwork Orange.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Especially like the demeanor and the kind of weird
Exactly.
outfit.
And just doing whatever the hell he wants.
And then like having like some like cheeky, disgusting narrative, that like justifies his action.
Like the way for Jane's case, when he pretends to be like a cop, it's like similar to when he's knocking on the doors. It's like, there's been a terrible accident.
Oh yeah, huh? Oh, wild.
Ooh, he's an unreliable narrator.
There we go.
Well, I guess kind of going into what Stefan was saying in a kind of an offhanded way, but there was a rumor that the potential identity of Spring-Heeled Jack was a guy named Henry de la Poer Beresford, or the third Marquess of Waterford.
Marquis.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's there's Marquis, Marquis, but this is spelled Marquess.
But Marquis sounds cooler.
It does, and
He
that's
probably
in
it
fact.
makes him picture a big fancy white powdered wig on his head.
But his nickname was actually the Mad Marquis,
Mm-hmm.
and so
He was a bit eccentric for the times, they say.
yeah, so he was known for like drunk brawling, saying brutal jokes, vandalism. Apparently, he had a contempt for women.
Oh man,
And
you know what's crazy?
supposedly, this is the
Oh,
real key here, that he reportedly accepted every wager he was ever presented with.
oh man,
Damn.
you know what's
Not a good way to
crazy?
live your life.
Oh, not at all. You know why? Because that's
Why?
the same lifestyle that a first year college student has.
Yeah, I'll
The
do whatever you
drunken
tell me.
the drunken fights, the vandalism, the contempt for women,
Jeez.
the taking any wager to do anything to stand out in the crowd.
Yeah, but
He probably drank nothing but White Claws and told everyone how much he loved Infinite Jest.
oh my. But that just goes in line with what the letter was saying, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That it was a wager. And I don't know if this guy really did accept every wager. This could be our man,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Still doesn't explain like a lot of things.
Super
Like
jump.
the super jump, the fire.
He had a pair of air mics.
Air mics. But yeah, so I guess
Uh,
at this point, Spring Heel Jack had reached like an all-time popularity and
mm-hmm.
was appearing left and right in some of those penny dreadfuls.
Oh yeah. I think that's when all the old timey illustrations started coming out,
Mm-hmm.
where he's like all like fancy and he's like, "Look at my fancy bat cape, everybody."
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be the cloak that he was
Mm-hmm.
wearing, I don't know. But yeah,
He was the
there's
filthy Frank of his generation.
Yes.
dude. Yeah, it got to a point to where there was like a sighting being reported almost every day, whether or not it was real or fabricated.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, just like in present day, there was a lot of sensationalist media,
Mm-hmm.
so everyone
Oh,
was kind of hopping on the Spring Heel Jack hype train.
oh man, could you imagine if like, because they always talk about oh back in the day they say they wanted to sell newspapers, so did you hear over in town so and so someone reported Spring Hill Jack, okay, so and so saw him, that's to sell papers, it's a
Hmm.
hot ticket item, whereas nowadays it's like corruption, this big company's been doing this or that. What if there was a sensational story towards a man's jumping around, breathing fire? He's being seen in Atlanta. He's in Florida. He's in Texas. He's in California. He's been seen in Australia, and people are just reporting this man who's jumping around shooting fire out of his mouth.
Yeah.
We got to make sensationalist news a little more exciting again.
But yeah, so Jack kind of disappeared after that first little wave, but then came right
Mm-hmm.
back in 1843. I just have some quick notes on this because
Mm-hmm.
I guess full disclosure, there's nothing really as exciting as the past couple, like that first initial wave of sightings is probably what we most think of when we think of Spring Heel
They were
Jack.
the most wildest.
Yeah, for sure. So during the second wave in Northamptonshire, they described him as the very image of the devil himself, with horns and eyes of flame. And
Yikes.
in East Anglia, there was attacks on mail coaches, which were like reported very often, doing
Mm-hmm.
similar things. Just jumping in front of the carriage and causing them to crash. Um,
Trying to steal people's mail.
and this one's pretty interesting from February 1855 because this sounds like another cryptid that we've actually covered before. But so in February 1855, there was a big heavy snow, and they found these hoof prints that were about 4 inches long, 3 inches across, and every print was about 8 to 16 inches apart, but they were all single file, and
Whoa.
they appeared everywhere on the road, on roofs, on walls, in gardens, in people's like gated yards or whatever, their courtyards.
In the
And
gardens, in the
it
tool sheds, in the swimming pools.
yeah, it covered a total distance of 40 to 100 miles. Not sure why
Jesus.
there's a big discrepancy, but for
40 to 100.
They're
yeah,
like, okay, I found a footprint over here. I found one 80 miles over here.
right.
It's got a
Uh,
long gate.
yeah. For my British friends, it's 60 to 160 kilometers. And yeah, so these are known as the Devil's Footprints, but it sounds a
Mm,
lot like the Jersey Devil, wouldn't you say,
yeah,
Alex?
that's crazy, dude. Oh man, could you imagine? Because they're like, oh, the Jersey Devil disappeared. He didn't disappear. He just relocated.
Yeah, I don't know because the footprints, in New Jersey and stuff were reported in 1909.
Mm-hmm.
And but like you said, the Jersey Devil myth goes back way further than that to like the
Mm-hmm.
1600s. So, it's kind of strange.
Yeah, that's spooky. A little spooky.
But at the time, this was attributed to Spring-Heeled Jack.
He's got new shoes, everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. That's because first of all, the hooves are really tiny. 4 inches by three
Mm-hmm.
inches. That's like really, really small.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a little baby deer feet.
so I don't know. It seems kind of
He,
weird.
that was just him on his tippy toes.
But yeah, I guess
On this
Spring-Heeled
tippy
Jack,
toe.
he kind of disappeared again, then
Mm-hmm.
reappeared back in the 1870s. In November 1872, in Peckham, there's the
Yes.
Peckham ghost that started to alarm people, and the media jumped right on it and said it's none other than Spring-Heeled Jack, who haunted a generation previous.
They're banking
Mm-hmm.
on that.
Yeah, dude, of course they were. You like, what?
You're like, oh,
It's
that
funny.
thing
It's funny.
40 years ago?
Well, it's funny because nowadays everyone's complaining. Everyone's so obsessed with nostalgia. Everyone wants to go back to the '80s and the '90s. It's like, hey, they were doing this stuff 200 years ago.
You're right.
They're like, hey, man, the 1870s kind of suck. Remember the cool ghost stories from the 1840s?
Yeah, right.
To go back to a simpler time when ghost stories were cool.
Here's another crazy one. In August 1877, at the Aldershot's barracks, there was a sentry on duty at the North Camp, and he saw a strange figure coming towards him through the darkness. And so he says, he issues a challenge. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but the figure just kind of ignored it, walks right up to the dude, and slaps him on the face a couple of times.
Oh,
And yeah, I know.
Jesus.
Just so another guard shoots at the figure, but seemingly to no effect. However, it's unclear if he was shooting at the figure or if he was just doing warning shots or if he just missed. But the figure disappeared with astonishing bounds, as it is quoted.
wow.
And apparently, this was happening so often at different barracks around London that they just said they're going to shoot that guy on sight. And right after they
Dang.
said that, the appearances stopped.
Huh.
Homie got scared.
Yeah.
Never bring a gun to a slap fight.
Yeah, kind of weird, dude. But one theory I've heard about this is that it was a guy named Lieutenant Alfie who was just playing pranks, and that's why the appearances stopped, because he was in the military and he would have known. Well, I guess it's come to an end, guys. I guess like
Well, guys, I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's our Alfie.
yeah. But that's hasn't been confirmed.
Mm-hmm. He didn't have a recurring slapping problem.
Yeah. I just think that's so funny. He came right up to the dude and slapped him.
Hey, man.
Hey, It's one of the, it's like when you play like playing a video game and like a level 1 enemy keeps trying to like kill you.
I have yet another sighting from 1877 in Lincolnshire. A mob cornered a spring-heeled Jack type who was wearing a sheepskin, and they fired at him, but again to no effect, and he just jumped out of there.
I think he laughed at him too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He flipped on the birds, laughed, and jumped off.
And so for his last appearance in 1904,
He had a good run, man, from 1838 all the way to 1904.
I know, right?
It's a good run,
Well,
an honorable run.
I don't think he terrorized anyone in this last one, but
Mhm.
he was reportedly seen in Liverpool jumping from
In-
the street to the rooftop and back
Mhm.
in like single bounds, you know?
Yeah, it says, yeah, he was last seen in Everton in Liverpool, 1904, bounding up and down the streets. But then they say for his final appearance, they actually cornered him in the alley.
Oh, really?
And as he stood there, an angry mob with their pitchforks, they stared him down. He said, "Alas, I have 2 words before I go." And the crowd waited. And then Spring Hill Jack, he threw his big cape in the air, looked at him with his big wide eyes, shot a little bit of fire in his mouth as he said, "Oh, behave."
Yeah,
And he
baby, yeah.
and he danced around in his little go-go boots, and he flew away in the air and into history.
What
It
what
was
are these
Austin
sound
Powers the
effects?
whole time. It was Austin Powers.
Oh. Oh, for sure. I
But
thought
that was
someone
the
was playing like Sonic or something. Um, but really, he got cornered in an alley for his
No.
last. Oh.
I had actually mixed up the 2 stories of when in 1870 when they could have cornered him, and then the last time he was in Liverpool. I mixed the 2 stories together because of the way the article was written.
Oh, for sure.
But I had that whole bit planned, and I was like, I'm going through with
Yeah, might as well.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he settled down in Liverpool, and then he met a woman. They gave birth to a little daughter. The daughter grew up at the age of 20, got married, had a baby, and that baby grew up to be Paul McCartney.
Whoa.
And
I thought you
then
were
he
gonna
went on
say.
to
I thought you were gonna say his daughter grew up to be Spring Hill Jane.
oh,
Springfield Jane, Tarzan and Jane, dude.
that baby grew up to be Paul McCartney, who later had a tussle with some Beatles, who afterward learned to gain his wings. Come on,
Yeah,
people. Spells
yeah, dude.
itself.
Billy Shears killed Paul McCartney and became Paul McCartney. But Billy Shears was, in fact, a spring-heeled Jack in disguise. He's wearing Paul McCartney's skin.
Oh. That's disgusting.
Hey, man. Desperate times.
But I guess if we're going with theories of who Spring Hill Jack could be or impersonating, uh, in this case, Paul McCartney, I guess a lot of people, a lot of skeptics attribute this to mass hysteria and sensationalized media that kind of turned him into the boogeyman, you know, this devil-like figure that's able to bound across buildings and stuff like that.
They say because he was spotted in Limehouse, you know, and you know, kind of downtown London, that kind of area. They say Spring Heel Jack disappeared after one fateful encounter with a group of extraordinary gentlemen, if you will.
Oh.
That'd be. I don't think he ever did that, but that'd be awesome if they fought against Spring
Oh,
Heel Jack.
darn. I was ready, dude. I was ready for it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
we should write it.
we
Yeah,
should
the
write it. Yeah.
expanded League universe.
Could you imagine? I would be too scared to touch any of Alan Moore's works.
I mean, it's pretty. It's a lot to grab on, but oh, what the hell? We'll do it. We'll do as much justice as they did to the Watchmen movie.
Oh man, nah. I don't get how Damon Lindelof did such a good job. It just, it feels
It's
so
too good.
Watchmen.
Their whole writing team.
I know, it's fantastic, fantastic. But anyways, yeah, some people say like he was an extraterrestrial. Um, I think that's pretty debunked because all of that came from the 1960s. And like
Mm-hmm.
UFO magazines, they're like Spring Heel Jack was actually an alien.
Oh.
But there's like no real reports at the time
Mhm.
that kind of support like UFOs or
There wasn't the found letter by Lucy Scales' sister who was like, oh, on second account when I relook at the dreadful night that happened of Lucy's attack, he was actually a gray man with big eyes, and instead of fire he had
yeah,
a strange gun that shot green rays that made her skeleton flash in and out. Like,
no.
Oh,
you were like just a gray alien going around shooting people. Oh, that'd be
Um,
kind of scary, actually.
oh, for sure.
Alex is over here like I'm gonna write a horror movie and thinks of something so scary he has nightmares.
Wouldn't that be something?
Ooh.
Uh, some people say it's a psychological phenomenon known as the old
Oh my god.
hag phenomenon.
Um,
And this is basically, sleep paralysis when
Ooh.
you start to hallucinate
Mm-hmm.
and you see, an old hag. So, I don't know.
Pretty
But
scary.
that doesn't explain, like groups of people seeing it.
Mm-hmm. It turns out everybody was just uh the guy crashed his wagon because he was sleeping. Everyone
Yeah.
had mass nightmares because they were all sleepwalking.
nah, I know why everybody saw it at the same time.
Why?
Everybody hit the same pan, dude.
Oh no.
Ooh.
That's when the new hot ticket hit the town. Opium.
But should we move on to pop culture?
For
Yeah.
sure. That's
Because
quite a bit.
settle in, everybody. There's a lot.
There really is.
Yeah, I just got some big brush strokes, but you guys
Yeah.
start taking it away.
Tell us, Stefan.
All right. Let's see. So there's quite a bit, which is kind of weird because this dude like attempted rape and shit.
Hey,
Yeah.
just look at every major celebrity we worship.
It's true. Okay, there's a let's see. There's a graphic novel from 1989 by Philip Pullman called Spring-Heeled Jack, and it says in which Spring-Heeled Jack saves a group of plucky orphans from the malevolent Mac the Knife.
Oh,
Hack
dang.
the knife.
So yeah, most of the like there's a couple of these where it's like he is the hero, which is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz there's let's see.
Do you know who Mac the Knife is?
No.
Mac the Knife is a character from this. I believe it's a Victorian play called Three Penny Opera,
Okay.
and it's about a set of characters all in downtown London. Uh, kind of in the slums. There's Mac the Knife. There's I believe Pirate Jenny, which is where Watchmen gets that character Pirate Jenny from,
Mhm.
the name. And it was actually the basis for the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen graphic novel 1910.
Aha.
Mm.
So, and they say Mac the Knife might have been Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
He's like a sailor who's really good with a knife. He kind of keeps coming and going, and people allude that he's got a history of meeting a nice lady, and then she kind of goes missing.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Sounds like a
Yeah,
rapper. Mac the knife.
yeah, what up? This Mac the Knife. You already know what it is.
But he like raps over like Victorian sea shanty tunes.
That and
That's
like
so
really abrasive, like pots and pans clanging together.
Every stage has a chimney stack that just spews black smoke.
One of the pop culture things I think would be the most popular would probably be the Assassin's Creed video game he's in.
Yes, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Syndicate.
That
Homie's
one's
a
pretty
villain in
dope.
that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Never
like a
played it.
side mission. Well, my brother played it, and I watched the mission today because I wanted to see what was up with it.
Mhm.
And it's cool because he's all black and he's got like these horns, and he's kind of like not really as described. He's kind of
Mm-hmm.
bulkier. I mean, he's still really fast because it's a video game and physics
Mhm.
don't really matter, but he's like this bulkier. He wears this armor. He's got this helmet with horns on it, kind of like a Viking thing.
Oh, dope.
And basically he just kind of does this little smoke screen that like, you know, disables you for like a second or two, allowing him to run away. And he does his cackle, the high pitched thing,
Mhm.
which is kind of tight. But then eventually you track him down to his lair, which is like underneath this house, and he's got these acolytes who are hanging out, and you have to kill all of them and then kill Spring-Heeled Jack.
Whoa.
Mhm.
That sounds
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, it's all right.
Dude, no, that's cool.
With a K.
Dude, I'm serious.
Did you guys get this one about maybe you guys already said this, but The Strange Affair of Spring-Heeled Jack, 2010?
I didn't.
Oh, for sure. It's a novel where Spring-Heeled Jack is a time traveler.
Whoa.
Yep.
I wonder if
Any-
it's any good.
I have no idea.
Ooh, we'll have to look into it and see. Be like, all right, because you figure, most time travel stories are either the involuntary character who gets time traveled, or the character who wants to time travel and has to go through some kind of, journey to learn that time travel's a metaphor for life's journey. Okay, don't think about it. The science falls apart.
No,
But
that's why I like H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, because it's about
mm,
class issues.
yeah,
It's like,
see,
what a
listen,
way, what a way.
back in the day, science fiction used to be a way to confront the problems of the modern world in a way that was far removed, so you could figure it out. The science was just a means of telling the human story.
Mhm.
But nowadays, everything's just CGI science fiction with no humanity. So, but yeah, I wonder if he like time travels and he's just like, hey, you know what would be cool? If I breathe fire in ladies' faces. What's
Very-
crazy is there's a toy of Spring-Heeled Jack.
Oh, yeah?
It's there's this toy line from the early '90s called Monster in My Pocket,
Mm.
and they were like these little like 1 to 2 inch tall like rubber figures based on different monsters from like folklore. So they have a Loch Ness monster one. They got a Frankenstein. There's like Mummy, Dracula, and like Baba Yaga, like some obscure mythological ones.
Mm.
And they made one with Spring-Heeled Jack, and he's like a little tiny guy that's all crouched up with these big kind of boots on.
Nice.
And because some representations have it to where like he actually has like these big like metal boots that have like springs actually in them,
Okay.
Whoa.
which is kind of cool.
That's how
Like
he's
that,
able to bound so high.
yeah. It kind of because there's a little bit of like that steampunk in there to like give him like these like weird metal boots that's how he fly, or he's looking kind of fly.
Heck
Uh,
yeah,
but
dude.
but yeah, there's a little tiny toy you can get of him, or there's this video game called Medieval 2 for the PlayStation 1, and it's a sequel to this game where you play as a reanimated soldier who has to fight this wizard in like medieval times.
Uh-huh.
But the style is kind of like Tim Burton-esque. So you look kind of like a Jack Skellington, but like in a suit of armor, and he's got like these big teeth with one eyeball, and your character can't talk; he just mumbles.
Uh-huh.
So he lost his lower jaw. But the first one takes place in the medieval times, kind of, and then the sequel takes place like 200 years later in like Victorian London, and you
Whoa.
wake up in a museum.
Whoa.
And then so you're in this museum. It's like a night in the museum where you're like the skeleton and you fight, various things because the museum owner is actually a wizard who's trying to resurrect like spells using the previous wizard spell book. And at one point, you get out of the museum and you fight this giant, disgusting lizard creature in a trench coat and a top hat that has knives for hands. And it's Jack the Ripper, but he can jump up and down like Spring-Heeled Jack.
That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So I just check out Medieval. They remastered their first one for the PS4 recently.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's dope.
Is that it
I
for
think
for the Spring-Heeled Jack?
I think so. That's a lot of his history of the character. I mean, I'm sure we could always, revisit him downtown in the future and see if there's like more, stories or cool fiction about, he's a
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
if you remove the uncomfortable, lady handling part, what you're left is, a guy that, a demon devil man that can breathe fire and can jump over Victorian, walls and has metal claws that he uses to fight, the Queen of England and her surgeon Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
but-
Jack the Ripper, I guess I just wanted to give a little shout out to other similar figures to Spring-Heeled Jack. So we got Jack the Ripper, of course, and we got Peric, the Springman of Prague.
Ooh.
And he kind of did the same thing, kind of went after women, jumped around, but I'm sure there's a lot more to that. And my personal favorite sounding one is the Mad Gasser of Mattoon.
Ooh.
The Mad Gasser.
Dude, I want to do that one so bad.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's about, but the Mad Gasser of Mattoon is such a sick name.
That's what they call me after a can of baked beans.
The Mad Gasser. Yeah. Now that this section of the episode's over, we need to go to section 2, the Slinky Toad Jimmy.
Oh,
Slinky
no.
Toad,
And if you think Spring-Heeled Jack was bad, get a load of this tosser.
what is the slang? I can't follow.
Slinky. I was just, Spring-Heeled Jack, Slinky Toad Jimmy. I just made it up. It's fake.
And then I did the ancient comedic stylings of keeping the joke running.
There we go.
Well, also kind of in code is someone I'm giving a shout out to today for emailing us some information on the Spring-Heeled Jack. It's our Patreon listener Amontillado, which is a reference to the Edgar Allan Poe short story, The Cask of Amontillado.
Woohoo! We
It's a good
thank
name.
you. We
Thank
thank you
you.
for the information, and we thank you for not putting us in your cask.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, Spring-Heeled Jack's pretty crazy. I mean, those Victorian people, they got wild time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What a time to be alive. Victorian era, dude.
They're like, oh man, not only do we got to deal with the crippling ozone layer from all this industrial crap we're pumping into the river, but
You're almost. Sorry, what?
But we also got to deal with ghosts too.
It was like a time period where you were like you were almost forced to believe everything. Not even like with real force, just the fact that like you didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like modern day. What?
Yeah. Right.
Some things never change, and then play the outro sitcom music.
Play the song for Stanford and Sons.
Yeah, play a little Seinfeld, little fake synth bass line.
Yeah, so if I want to find Alex online, how do I do that?
Ooh, well, if you want to find me on Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Alex Daikaiju. That's Alex DAIKAIJU. I like to post pictures about monster and cryptid art, so be sure to check that out. And what I like to do sometimes is I like to put on my goggles, put on my top hat, put on a trench coat made out of leather, and pretend that I'm Van Helsing hunting Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. but not just any Jekyll and Hyde. The one from Tom Cruise's The Mummy, played by Stephen Myers.
Oh. And if you wanted to find me on Instagram, you can find me at Alex Daikaiju. That's Alex DAIKAIJU. I like to post cryptid art, so go ahead and check that out. I'm just kidding. Now you can find me on Instagram at Myers Stephen. That's MYERSSTEFFEN.
Yeah,
What about you?
Oh, you can find me at the Eli Watson.
Wait.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I don't know why we're doing this. I forgot that this is a Tall Tales and we don't. They know us.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
No.
Just cut it to when you said that, dude.
My sources today was Atlantis Obscura and Historic UK.
All right, mine was the Atlas Obscura as well, and then the Cask. You know what I'm saying?
And my sources came from Historic UK and Wikipedia.
Woohoo!
But
Wikipedia.
Thanks again for the info.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for subscribing to the Patreon. We hope you guys are liking the Tall Tales because we like making them for you.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.